Hi, listeners. Welcome to episode 10.
Are
And
we
we
up
have a
to
guest.
10?
Episode
Considering
10
we
already,
can't
yeah.
number anything correctly.
Yeah, we don't worry about that. Let's pretend it never happened.
Yeah, true. But hey, we got an awesome guest. This is 10th episode. It's a big thing, and we have a big guest today.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we have Michelle Bergstein-Fontanez. Because I will say that right. Because Michelle, I've known you for 11 or 12 years, and I don't think I've
Oh my
ever
God,
gotten
it's been that long. I think we've known each other 10 years and I'm doing the 10th episode. So that's pretty neat, right?
That is pretty cool. That is
Oh,
pretty awesome.
I
And
like that.
we are going to be talking about everything. Because Michelle is with Beat Creative Marketing, we are actually going to be talking about everything about marketing, your events, what's going on in the world of marketing with events, because it's a big mess out there with Omicron, because it's still a big thing.
In particular, we should be talking about once an event has been postponed and moved on, how do you keep the engagement? How do you keep people interested?
Yeah.
Tough job.
So we might as well dive right in, and I'll just be like, Michelle, tell us what's going on in the world of marketing, and then we can kind of riff on it from there.
Sure. So for all the listeners out there, I am based in sunny Florida, in Orlando, Florida. So that is Central Florida. And as you probably heard throughout the news, Florida is just the hotbed for COVID. There's people are running wild, not wearing their masks. And for a while, the whole county was very optimistic. Um, we were putting events together, things were in full swing, moving forward, and then boom, Omicron hits. And now we're in this next panic phase. And I work with so many different event professionals, a lot of vendors, and I work with a few public service organizations that are putting on public events for the community. And there's been just a lot of pivoting and just a lot of continued engagement. Like Bob said, we're trying to keep the audience engaged, keep them informed, and just keep the conversation going. So that's been kind of like the game plan that we've been following. But here in Florida, I mean, it's very much different than where
Yep.
Keith is in Chicago. And it's like, I hate saying like girls gone wild, but it's kind of like the Wild West down here. And every day is different. And I've known people personally that have had now COVID twice, because Omicron is very, very contagious. And on the public service end of things, our county government, whether it's our public schools, any government entities, we have to perform contact tracing if any of our staff or team members get COVID. So it's quite the production. And, it's just an ongoing story right now. So,
well, and I think it's tough for a lot of events. Let's say you have an event. I have a client event that's coming up in a week and a half, right? I think so many events don't think about the mark, because it is marketing, the communications portion of it. They don't have a plan in place, and so when they decide that they're going to postpone, pivot, or whatever it is that they're going to do with their event, they're in a week and a half time frame, and they don't have a plan. Right. Mm-hmm. They didn't think about it beforehand. So especially when you're looking at places, like Florida, or up here, for us, it's Indiana, where there really aren't any rules. If an organization decides to pivot, it's going to be at the last minute. And if they haven't thought about the communication that goes behind that, they're going to be in a big pickle.
And, for larger events with larger commitments, booked acts that cost thousands upon thousands of dollars. I mean, we're seeing contracts revised where there is that out clause where they get to keep their money, whether or not they perform or not. So it's really scary. But like Keith said, from the marketing perspective, we have to keep pounding the pavement, keep reminding them. And, from a smaller scale event perspective, it's easy to pivot to an online format, because we do a lot of lunch and learns, that are educational focused to the community. And with those, if we have something in person, we can pivot to the online format. But with other events, creative events, like, people are striving, they want to be out, they want to be engaging with people. I feel like we've lost that human connection now going on 2 years. Like, people are really striving to be out there. And then, it's just people aren't following the directions. They don't follow the rules. They don't want to wear the masks. They think they're invincible until they get it.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, we're running into now is as we're coming up on the live date for the next in-person event that we have for our client. It's actually not the attendees. It's the speakers are starting to come down with COVID. Right. And so now, they did not plan, luckily we had a plan in place to go hybrid, but we're actually now going hybrid more for the speakers to bring them in than actually the attendees. The attendees are, I'm sure some of them obviously have COVID or whatever and haven't notified us, but we're just getting all kinds of notifications from speakers going, you know what, I don't feel bad because I'm vaccinated, but I can't be there. So,
right.
And so when it comes to marketing though, when you're going to pivot and make those changes, what channels are you finding that have been the most effective, or should an organization take a shotgun approach and use all the channels? Is there any thing that people should be looking to do, or do they, in a specific direction, or should they just go in every direction they can?
Well, first, you have to realize that inventory of where are all the channels that you posted your event. So first and foremost, you gotta, I don't want to say retract the message, but actually put the message out there like, hey, we've postponed, our new date is such and such. And then we go through this whole phase of revising all of our collateral, revising all of our event pages to the new dates. So, when you are, making that transition to update the dates, you really have to be mindful of where did I post our event, because you don't want to leave any event up there that you might have forgotten and then someone, actually attend it at the wrong date. So, but then the other thing that, besides social media, you definitely need to be putting that message out on your email marketing, and probably more than once. And then the last phase of kind of retracting the event date is actually looking at all of the people that already RSVP'd and either sending them a personal email or some type of personal outreach that tells them like, hey, due to these circumstances, we had to, reschedule our event or postpone it. I mean, we're not really canceling events. We are postponing. So, because we don't want to lose that revenue on all those registered attendees. We can't give that up. We work so hard to market the event and get the attendee. And then it's like, you feel like you've just been punched in the face. Like, I've done all that marketing. I've helped expose this event. I've gotten all these great attendees, and then boom, like, Omicron hits. Like,
that's an important point, because the thing is, the temptation to go quiet is probably quite strong. So it'd be the wrong time to go dark and suddenly go, okay, it's just postponed. Let's not talk about it. Let's just wait. You have to keep that line of communication open all the time, which I think many people kind of don't realize or just don't do.
But I feel like we're also on a roller coaster, Keith, right? So we're having these peaks and valleys where, like, we have a surge of, say, a new strain, and then we go back to kind of a normal, we're going to go about business again. And then do you feel that? Because I feel that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, and the one thing I think that events should do that they don't do is over communicate, right? This is, there's always the perception that, we can't post this more than twice to Facebook because it'll bug me. You know what? That goes out the window, right? If you're having to postpone, you're going to want to put that on Facebook. But also, just because you have to postpone, Omicron and COVID are not, everybody understands. We've been in this for 2 years now. Yes, they may be disappointed that you have to postpone, you have to, whatever it is, but they get it. So, and I think that, to Bob's point of going quiet, that's when you don't go quiet, you actually over communicate and start pushing out more information. I always find it's really helpful, if you're an event and you have to postpone it and you're going to go out 3 or 4 months or whatever it happens to be, give people a reason to get excited again.
Yes.
You can bring in another big speaker. Take that little bit of extra time that you have and make your event even better than it was before, which will kind of alleviate a little bit of that disappointment that people had that you had to postpone in the first place.
Agreed. Yes. And some of the things that we're doing from a social media standpoint with the kind of process of over communicating is putting different stories up that relate to the event, like trivia or fun facts about the artist, the performer, the speaker, or just even the topic. So we've seen a lot of great success with that. And we've also seen a lot of success from the number standpoint, as far as visits to websites, is, doing the promoted ads on Facebook.
Yeah.
I mean, you could be pretty conservative and only spend up to $50 and get some good reach out of it. But, I feel it's still a struggle getting people out to free events. Like, we're doing a monthly music in the park showcase. And this is coming up on our 3rd month. And the first month it started out okay, but then the weather went south. So then we lost the whole crowd.
Yeah.
And the performers were amazing. And then the second installment of the event, we tried something different. We actually got our local high school band to be the, opening act, just to drum up more local citizens to come. And it kind of backfired. And in retrospect, we said we should have put them as a break performer, because after they perform the opening, all of the parents, they all left. So they just wanted to see their kid perform, and then they just left. So that whole idea kind of crashed and burned. And now this next one,
okay, right? It's okay to try something, right? With any event, right? And it doesn't matter if it's a community event like this one that you're talking about, or even a big event. You know what? You tried it, you figured out how to change it, but at least it was something new and it was fresh, right? It was different. And so much, and this is totally not on I'm totally going down a rabbit hole over this way. Yeah, but so many events don't try new things that's a whole other episode where you could talk about why aren't people trying new things? So,
yeah.
okay.
So, I mean, it's how do you get people just to come out of their house? I mean, it's getting challenging and more challenging every single day with everything we're up against. And like you said, Keith, we're just trying different things, like you said, to see if it sticks. But like you said, don't be afraid. I mean, at least you tried, right?
Right. There's nothing wrong with failure. Absolutely nothing.
So we're going to try it again this Friday, and we have another local artist. We're going to put her on the break segment, and she has a pretty good following. So we're optimistic. And then we're going to try some other new tactics in order to get more engagement and attendance at the event. So some of those new tactics are promoting in our local Facebook groups, because we've seen a huge uptick with just comments, likes, replies, if we post in local groups, because first off, they have a big number of people that belong to the group. And, they want to know what's going on around town. But of course, a lot of that comes with negativity too. So we, as you saw, Keith, we have some washed up 90s. Let me take that back. We have some.
You're not washed up.
No, because they may be listening to this. No, they are, let's say, classic 90s pop performers. Some of them I admire greatly. Rob Bass being one of them.
And tag team?
Tag teams had some great, recent success with their commercials. It was Geico, right? Geico?
It was Geico. And,
yes. So, we've come to some criticism. We've gotten a lot of negative kind of like Debbie Downer posts. And it's like, how do you address those people? Like, we can't really address them. Like you said, Bob, you got to kind of keep it on radio silence, but we just got to keep it moving. Like,
well, and
we do.
So let me ask you a question about Facebook groups. And it directly, really, because you post any, right? You're in a Facebook group and you post something about Rob Bass, right? And there's always going to be the haters on him, always. The same. And the headliner here, because his picture is the biggest, is Vanilla Ice, right? You put Vanilla Ice up there, and you are gonna get just some, right? Because a lot of people don't like Vanilla Ice. However, are you finding, and this is actually something I've been, when you're marketing an event, are Facebook groups, even with the people with the negative Nelly comments, because we know that they're there, are those getting more traction than, let's say, an organization posting directly to their Facebook page, or somebody's personal Facebook? Are groups actually more interactive and more engaged than the rest of Facebook in general?
So to answer that question, it is tricky. We can post as the page. We can't post as the page to the group. We have to post it as ourselves, and we would share it from the page. So there is that kind of workaround. But what we've also found, besides sharing it, because sometimes we see like a dip in the engagement if we just share it from the page. So I hate saying we like to like plant certain people into the group. So we would reach out to other local, folks in the community and like actually, have them post questions or just like a comment like, oh my God, I'm so excited, because like it's just very obvious if I share the event on the Facebook group. Like normally I am not posting it, myself, because then they'll blatantly see, oh, my name is actually on the website, right, for sponsorship or vendor opportunities. So like we don't want to be blatantly obvious because it does hurt the engagement of the post. It looks too salesy. So that has been, Keith, an ongoing challenge of how do you kind of fly below the radar and like be authentic, because it is very challenging.
Yeah, and I can see that, right? As an organization, posting in especially a community group, right? If it's a group that is specifically for whatever, whatever, that's good. But like in the community ones, or if you're going in that direction, yes, you don't want to seem spammy or salesy, but I think a lot of that can be alleviated in the post and the post type. For example, if your post content isn't salesy, right, then it's not going to come across as salesy. But you could also, in the case of like a conference or anything like that, it would be really great if if you could recruit your speakers to post in groups. Hey, I will be speaking at this event. That's huge.
Right. I mean, yeah, because it is like kind of like I'm so proud of myself, and it's being more kind of I don't want modest, but a little, braggy, but still, you're just excited about the opportunity. And like you said, to your point, Keith, we are posting things that aren't so much come to the event, but more like, fun fact about, Vanilla Ice. Did you know he was on Dancing with the Stars? And even before we announced the headliners, we actually were doing we were actually doing little hints on like, can you guess who our headliners are? Because we wanted to build that, excitement and that kind of mystery of who it's going to be. Because, with this format of this event, like it originated as more of a country music, festival for Friday and Saturday, because it is a 2-day free event. And then they started experimenting, doing a different music format on Friday. So like one year we had Pat Benatar on Friday night, and she was amazing. And then Saturday night, they kept it to the same format of country music. So, like you said, experimenting, seeing, what we could endure.
Pat Benatar would be awesome. I actually was talking to a client a couple of weeks ago, and Pat Benatar, they actually got her to do their corporate event, and they
Wow.
she killed it. She's
She's amazing.
still rocking. Now
Yeah,
wait,
and she performed in the rain too. So it started raining and she just kept going. So to me, that is dedication. Like you're just in it for the people. You're in it for your audience.
I've actually heard of her.
Wow.
I mean, this Rob Bass guy, I have no idea. But Pat Benatar, Vanilla Ice, yeah, of course, he was very popular here at one point.
You got Vanilla Ice, though. You remember Vanilla Ice, right?
Yeah.
Okay. CNC Music Factory, because that's another act they've got going.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just old and out of scene.
No, wait, I'm old. But they are old school hip hop.
I stopped looking around 1986. Everything before that's fine.
Okay. So,
anyway.
Okay, so this is going to make you weep, but Rob Bass was definitely before 1986.
Doesn't help. Still don't know who the hell he is. I'll look him up. We'll put a link or a video or something in the show notes just to make sure all UK listeners and viewers and whatever.
Yeah, it takes two to make a thing go right.
Yeah. So, fortunately, this is audio only, so people can't see me dancing because I dance horribly. But, all right, so we've kind of gotten through that. But if you, in a perfect world, because we are talking about marketing, in a perfect world, if someone could only pick 3 channels to market, where would you set? What would you tell them to concentrate on right now?
Well, that's kind of tough because it depends on their audience. So I'm going to throw that iron in the fire. But what we found most success, like from just a community standpoint, because of course, if you are trying to target more of a business audience, LinkedIn is a very great vehicle. And, with LinkedIn, you can experiment with a couple of different things. And one of the most popular things we've seen on LinkedIn is, creating blogs, and stories and then also backlinking it to your website. So we've found a lot of, traction with that. But as far as like, if we're going to market to the everyday person, people are still on Facebook. So I would say that's kind of our number one. Second,
and I hate to interrupt, but that's one thing that, a lot of people are like, well, Facebook's done. You hear a lot of that, and that's totally not true. People may be posting less about their personal lives, and they may be posting fewer pictures, and they may not taking pictures of their eggs Benedict at brunch, but they're still on Facebook.
They're
right?
trolling. They're trolling without a doubt.
Well, the problem is Facebook business pages are now listed and in your feed less and less often. So that becomes a really huge problem. However, what's on the rise is groups. And if you can create a group and get people to contribute and invite their friends, that's where the action is, not necessarily a business page anymore.
Well, and the other thing that we see that works very successfully, and if you have a smaller staff, it is a little bit more challenging, but having everybody on your team, share the company page post to their own personal. So that's one tactic. The other tactic that we've seen is tagging people, like tagging other businesses, because then the other businesses can share it on theirs. And then, and then we could kind of get that, wildfire approach where every person is sharing. But I can't stress enough, like everybody in the organization has to be, screaming from the rooftops and sharing anything from a business page, because you're absolutely right, Bob. Like, that's why when you go to a business page, you will see there is a difference between the amount of fans and the followers. Like, they could be two different numbers.
Yes.
And the reason being is because the followers opted in to get the promotions, to see the posts in their feed. But the only way you can continually keep your page like in other people's feed is if you are actually commenting on people that comment on yours, or even, we've seen this work very well, is we see people liking the page, and sometimes they might not, liking the post because maybe somebody else shared it in their friend group. But there is another tactic that, you have to be mindful of, which is inviting them to the page. So you could click on, all the comments, like all the likes, all the loves, and then it'll show you, if you're logged in as a business page, like which people already like your page and which people don't. And then you could start inviting them to the page. So I know
Well,
that's like a frequently overlooked little feature.
yeah, and I think back to your point about, tagging people and things like that. We have one client who, in all of their speaker contracts, it's required that they do a minimum amount of posts.
I love it. Yeah. I've seen that. Like, yeah.
That's huge. The other thing is, especially, the live event that we have coming up in a week, actually has a smaller exhibit floor. It only has usually it's about 50 exhibitors. This year it's 30. But they will actually create posts that are targeted at each exhibitor. Right. And again, they don't just do them one after the other. It's part of their overall mix, but they'll actually say, hey, a big shout out to exhibitor, XYZ company. They'll tag them, which then, hopefully that company, because they do let all their sponsors know that they will be doing this. And again, not all of them do it, but you hope that some of those sponsors, speakers, things like that, as they're tagged, will be liking things and sharing it, taking it out and then doing things with it, and which does then spread the message.
And what Keith is talking about when it comes to social media marketing for conferences is a whole different beast than social media marketing for like a festival or a one-day event or a concert. Because, in my experience, we have done marketing for conferences, and it's very intense. Like, we've also built social media guidebooks around a conference, because like you said, Keith, we want to make sure all the, stakeholders in the event, whether they're an exhibitor, a speaker, a sponsor, they're all getting their fair share and their fair exposure. And when it comes to that, you have to be much more strategic. You have to kind of like even pre-plan a lot of your posts, and really map it out. Like, in the past, what we've done is we've created like a full, Excel sheet that like kind of tiers out like each sponsor, and then the deliverable of how many posts they got. So it's a lot of management, I'll admit. So,
well, I mean, social media marketing is definitely, it's not a small animal anymore, right? They're in 4-year degrees in this stuff. So it's, I always caution any organization is like, well, we'll just get an intern to do it. It's like, really? Mm-hmm. You're going to trust your second best marketing opportunity, an intern, right? Because the number one is email, right? You can never discount email, and I think most organizations actually have a decent handle on email. It's the social stuff. Still, now we're 15 years into social media marketing, and they still don't get it.
Oh, totally. And when it comes to email, I feel like it's kind of also an evolving process. And I could only attest to, big retailers doing it right. And I fell a victim to, of course, Bath and Body Works. I think they do an amazing job of their email marketing. And, I feel like a lot of event companies and events and conferences really should take a play out of the playbook of some of the major big retailers when it comes to email marketing, because they do it well,
Yeah. You know who gets me every week? Land's End.
Oh, that's what gets you. But Bath and Body Works gets me. I'm like, I gotta stop. It's a bad addiction
And
of
LLB.
candles and plugins.
But I do, and you're right. Those emails come in, and literally I don't pass them by. Like I'll be like, ooh, LL Bean, click, right, and then next thing you know, I've spent $300. So all right, so we're at the half hour mark. So we kind of what?
Oh, I was about to say, we've just discussed, or you guys have discussed, I've just listened, some really excellent points. Anyway, can we turn we're on the bullet list? That's what's called. So can we turn the last 5 minutes? Can we have some bullet points for that? Because there are some really, really excellent things that people can follow. And we are the bullet list after all.
So bullet list. If Omicron is a thorn in your side, don't be afraid to pivot and postpone. Don't cancel, postpone. That would be bullet number 1. Bullet number 2 is over communicate. And Keith kind of contributed to that. And I just kind of elaborated on what you could do to over communicate. Definitely keep your audience engaged. Even if you have nothing to talk about, like for 1 year while your event is postponed, keep the post going, keep the page updated, keep people engaged. The third bullet would be, create engaging content. So, just pull out a lot of great features of your conference speaker, maybe your list of activities or events throughout the event, fun facts about your performers, make it fun, make it engaging, make it kind of an interesting, educational. Wow, I didn't realize that artist was on Dancing with the Stars.
Right.
Yeah, so that would be bullet number 3, keep the engaging content going. And bullet number 4, what did we talk about last, Keith?
So
email marketing, like try a lot of different, tactics in addition to social media. Don't be afraid to do the email marketing approach. And also, individual communication. Like if your audience is small enough, send them a personal email or even reach out and pick up the phone. So yeah.
So we had an event, and I know we're coming down to the end, but we actually had an event with only about 150 attendees. And they did have to pivot, and it's going out to July now. But they literally had 3 staff people that picked up the phone and called all one. They sent an email, of course, to let them all know, but then they literally picked up the phone and called 150 people just to say a personal, hey, boom, boom, and again, 90% of the time you're going to get voicemail because I have not actually answered my phone directly in years, but that's still a great voicemail to get, especially if it's not a recording, especially if it's someone going, hey, Keith, this is so-and-so with this event, COVID rears its ugly head. Here's what we're doing.
Right? And that is a great bullet, Bob, which is, humanize the communication, whether it's on social media, email marketing, even mailers, like try to make every communication as personal as you could possibly make it.
Except when it gets creepy. Like text messages. Like you get a text message, hey Keith, and you're like, oh, who's this? And you open it up.
Oh my God. I love text marketing. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a geek. I'm a geek on it. I love it.
Personalizing text messages is kind of weird because you get a hey Keith in there and you actually click it and you think that it's like a friend and you open it up and it's an ad. You're like,
well, and then, I just went on another rabbit hole myself into researching other means of communication for marketing. And I stumbled into, the local TV market because, the TV market has really evolved and revolutionized the way that you can advertise and market. Like you could literally pinpoint people by your phone, by the actual ID of your phone. And the capabilities that I know the TV stations are real like conglomerates now. They're owned by bigger entities like as soon as Time Warner acquired a lot of different local TV stations, they really upped their research and marketing capabilities. And oh my God, Keith, I would love to have one of those people on one of your podcasts. Like I met someone recently, and the amount of information they schooled me on that call was like mind blowing. It's truly mind blowing.
And now I'll skip over to billboards, right? So it's really funny, but years and years and years ago, I worked for the National Restaurant Association on the restaurant show, and they knew that X amount of people came from within 60 miles, say, right? And that's going to be the majority of any giant trade show like that. But now I can literally launch a billboard in Chicago next to the highway from my computer. I just log into, I think it's called Blip or something like that. You log in, upload your graphic.
Creative, yep.
Yeah, upload your creative, tell them how long you want it to run, what times you want it to run, and what your budget is, and boom, your billboard is out on the Kennedy Expressway.
It's just, it's crazy. So, that's another talk for another time. But
Yeah.
that marketing approach with media, because now we got streaming video, streaming audio. There is so many other means of marketing. And I know we just touched upon like social media and some, light digital tactics, because, for smaller businesses and organizations and even government entities, they can't afford, a big ad buy. So yes, social media is more, attainable to do their marketing. So.
Fabulous. Thank you for that. A good selection of bullet points. Before we end, I have one question. And this is something we've just talked about, Keith, but for our guests, is a random question. So, Michelle, what app, gadget, or tool can you not live without? On the spot for that one.
Well, I'm going to say I cannot live without Google Docs right now. I love Google Docs. So that's one app I can't live without right now, because it's changed the way you work. You can work on your phone. You can work anywhere. I know that's kind of a geeky answer. It's not, because like Keith said, I've kind of, pivoted myself. I'm not heavily on social media like I used to be, but I'm more entrenched with my work and what I got to do.
I'll go with you and say, you know what? My most used app the app I can't live without right now is not going to be like something that is going to shock everyone and they'll have to run right out and get it. Right. It's actually Google Docs as well.
I know we're geeks right now.
Right.
I'm really into Evernote right now.
Yeah, Evernote.
I'm loving it. It's absolutely brilliant. I hate the restrictions that you have on the free version where you can only have it on a certain amount of machines. But when it comes to organizing and sharing, because we use Evernote to keep the show notes and what we're doing, Keith. And to be honest, it makes it so much easier, doesn't it?
It does. And so I think any of the productivity tools like that, that's actually something for a whole nother episode as well. But most people should use Solitaire and put more productivity in there.
Yeah,
definitely. Well, thank you guys for having me.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's been brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Bullet List Show. You can find more episodes on our blog at bullet-list.com or on your favorite podcast platform. The blog has an RSS feed so you can keep up with the latest news. There's also a podcast RSS feed if that's what you prefer. Both feed URLs can be found on the blog. Finally, we have a Facebook group where we welcome your feedback, ideas for topics, and suggestions for guests. Please come and join us. We're looking forward to seeing you there.